Round 5 of the BMW IBSF Women's Skeleton World Cup. We're at the most historic track in ice sliding in beautiful St Moritz in Switzerland's Engadin Valley. A stunning location and an epic track for the second and deciding heat. Hello everybody, I'm Martin Haven. Alongside me, US slider Nathan Crumpton. And Nathan, what a race we have in prospect.
It is a fantastic race so far. We have Janine Flock, the two-time defending gold medalist here, sitting in third place currently. Had a fantastic run, was a little bit early in the start order, so I know she's going to be trying to take advantage of her later run. Very smooth lines, crossing the finish line, sitting in a really good position, going to be fighting for the medals and hopefully another gold. But if my teammate Kendall Wesenberg has anything to do with that, she'll be putting up a really good fight. Kendall is just 1/100th of a second in front of Janine. Really tight racing here. Kendall was letting it fly at the bottom of the track, had some fantastic speeds, sitting in her best finish so far this year, currently in second place. But the big story, this lady right here, Mimi Rahneva. She had a fantastic start, the third fastest start of the field at 5:18, and she had a speed of 136.44 kilometers an hour, faster than not only all of the women, but all of the men who raced this morning, with the exception of Martins Dukurs.
Well, Mimi Rahneva has got an astonishing lead, 7900s. How big a lead that is, you can see how close they are behind. Another 7900s behind Kendall Wesenberg in second, falls between 19th and 20th place. So in racing, she's basically a lap ahead of the entire field, but nothing is done. She still has to go out and repeat. The Russians are struggling at the bottom of our starting order, and they will go off first. Athletes making little adjustments to their sleds. I think the track conditions, ice is -10, but the air is much warmer, almost up towards 0, and maybe that's making the track a little skiddy, and the girls having to adjust their sleds. You saw Janine, there's Kendall Wesenberg. And whatever's going through their heads, and those of Mimi Rahneva in only her 5th ever World Cup start, I can't imagine. Or whatever else, it's a stunning location and a historic natural track, and different from any other, Nathan.
It is. It is hand-built every year. It is not artificially refrigerated. They import snow and hand-build it each corner every year, so it does change from year to year. It's not the same track that you get last year and the year before, and hence you get new start records and new downtime records every single year.
And of course, it feels different. You don't have the rumble of the concrete channel because mountains don't rumble when a skeleton sled goes over them.
It is the smoothest ride that you can get in the skeleton. There's no expansion joints, and it is just a lovely, lovely place to slide.
Of our 3 Russians, Maria Oliver and Elena Nikitina made it into the heat in 20th and 19th position. Kim Marmans, a Belgian, Jackie Naraka also made it into the heat. Lizzie Arnold, the Olympic champion, will go off from 10th spot after the first heat. Teammate Laura Dees in 6th position after heat 1. And then tight at the top, 100th between 2nd and 3rd. But nearly 8/10 clear is our leader, who will go last.
And here we have Maria Orlova sitting in 20th place using her German-made Willy Schneider sled, hoping to improve a few spots here on the second run.
Well, she had a very skiddy run. Speed just dropped off the Russian sleds from start to finish. Long run into the little first nameless kink on this track, and then you've got to be so silent, Nathan.
You do. You can already see her runners going back and forth. She's trying to set the line and struggling just a little bit. Looking better from kink 2 going down into the wall corner. I think she's settled onto her sled and hopefully has a better run here.
First corner of any significance is wall.
Whoa, trying to stay off that slider's right wall. She goes into snake 1 and snake 2, and now into Sunny corner.
Well, Sunny now in the shadow of the trees.
Entering into Nash and then into Dixon, which sets her up for this critical horseshoe, taking a late line into horseshoe. Whoa, flirting with the wall there in horseshoe, but clean exit.
Now this is what helps you pick up the speed, 61 miles an hour, chin on the ice as you really accelerate fast now.
Now she's entering the 4 right-hand corner combination, using her toe, sticking it out, trying to set the line, still dragging her toe. You can hear it on the audio. Coming to the top speed portion of the track with a speed of 131 kilometers an hour.
And that's 81.5 miles an hour, chin on the ice. And across the line, 1:10.35, 1100s, 1400s faster than her first heat. But still, that would only have left her 19th as opposed to 20th in the first run.
It wasn't a bad run by Maria. She may be struggling a little bit with her equipment, not quite gelling with it. Not a bad run overall, but probably not the time she's looking for. There she goes, getting really high in horseshoe, flirting with the top, almost clipping the wood with her right bunks, barely getting by unscathed.
Gets the exit she needs and uses that height to try and build speed. Maria Oliver leads briefly. Teammate coming up next. Second of the sliders in our second heat is Russia's Elena Nikitina. Fastest starter of all, tying the track record this season. Came down 19th place. The speed just fell off.
She does have a fantastic start. Great turnover, a lot of strength. Comes in with the time 5:14. There we see it, tying the start record again. She settles onto her sled, going through kink 1 and now kink 2, and sets the line going into wall corner. You can see a little bit of wavering in the sled there. She tries to set the line, scrubbing a little bit of speed, but hopefully she can hold on and have a decent run.
1600s ahead of her teammate Maria Oliver from the start. Long way down to the next block at Sunny. 3400s up. This is better from Nikitina.
It is. She's going to try and open up this lead, see if she can carry that speed through horseshoe. Little toe corrections, entering horseshoe, takes a much lower line, and takes the hit out. That's going to hurt her left shoulder.
3600s up, but you saw her steering desperately with her head, trying to hold the sled up on the corner. Drilled the wall at telephone. And down to 900s from nearly 4/10 up. She'll go behind now on speed.
She might drop behind her teammate. It's a battle to be the top Russian in the field, and I don't know if Elena can hold on to it.
500s behind. She doesn't have speed at the bottom that we saw from Oliver. She will go and drop to the bottom of the timesheet. So the Russians will be 20th and 19th as likely as not. Not much to write home about here for Maria Oliver. She picks up a spot, but when you're that far down, yeah, whatever. And possibly the ongoing problem for the Russians, the sled's built by Willi Schneider, who was their coach for the last 4 or 5 years. They split with him at the end of last season. No more development, no more advice, no more help. They're on their own.
That is correct. They are using all their old equipment. I don't think they've gotten any new sleds or new runners this year, and they're going to try and make the best with what they have.
So first 2 sleds down on ice, and Nikitina drilled the wall as hard as anybody we've seen today. She drops to the bottom of the times. Kim Marmons of Belgium, third of our 20 sleds in the second and deciding heat, round 5 of the Women's Skeleton World Cup. Martin Haven and American slider Nathan Crumpton watching the action. The Belgian girl, 5:37, not a quick starter. But she's got a bit of a love-hate relationship with this track, Nathan.
She really does. She probably is on more of the hate side today. She didn't have that great of a first run, and she had some really terrible training runs. Having an accident, smashing her ankle, it got really swollen. She was limping after training earlier this week. It's a great smooth ride, but sometimes you just don't get along with the track.
Because the ice is so cold, down to -20 overnight, barely gets up to -10 in the day. So like a concrete wall, a rough one that grips you as you hit it. She's got a slender lead now over Oliver.
Ooh, skidding going into Devil's Dyke there. We'll see if that hurts her time. Her form's looking good. She's looking relaxed, and she opens up a little bit more of a lead, 0.12 of a second, going into the bottom portion of the track here. Takes the final right-hander, Gunter Sachs, at the top speed, 132.4 kilometers an hour, 82.3 miles an hour. Clips the entry into Portago and crosses the finish line with a quarter-second in the bank.
And 0.2 of a second faster than her first heat, so the love is coming back a little bit.
It is.
Marmons.
Hopefully she'll be happy with that run. Maybe she'll pick up another spot too.
We talk so often about sliders being quiet on the sled, by which we mean not moving, not steering so much, but here you hear the steers because it's so silent otherwise.
You do. You hear the steers, you can feel the wind rushing by you, and in some of these higher speed corners, occasionally you can taking a little hit there before the finish curve.
Little hit equals big bruise tomorrow morning on that right shoulder of hers. But Kim Marmons has the lead here. First out of the start shed this morning, so she had the slowest ice. Australia's Jacqueline Narracott was just a few hundredths in front of Kim Marmons after the first heat, but she lies in 17th position, 100th was the advantage from the first run.
And she's already 200ths of a second behind, but now she goes back into the green, hopefully picking up some speed there through the first kink as she makes her way down into the big left-hander wall. You feel like you're in this corner for almost forever as you set up for Snake 1, where you can really drop out and build some speed, having some nice lines on her Bromley sled as she enters Sunny.
17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, covered by a 10th of a second, so you can easily pick up spots or drop spots with as few as one mistake.
Certainly. One corner can make it or break it, and that's an important one there. Horseshoe, one of the most important corners on the track, most famous one in Skeleton. Skidding into Devil's Dyke a little bit, but holding her own.
Looks like she didn't steer the corner, kind of straightened her up and got her back on the straight and narrow. She's gone from 200s behind to half a second in front of Kim Marmons.
Pulling out a big lead. Oh, takes a skid and a tap. Coming out of Gunter Sachs. Top speed 134 and 2/3 of a second lead. This will put her comfortably into first place.
High in the final corner, she's going to drill the wall low. She just gets away with it. 8/10 of a second. She was 100th of a second, so she's added 8/10. We saw in the men's race, Martin Stucours went 6/10 of a second quicker. She's just gone 8/10 of a second quicker on this run. That's how much you can tidy things up.
That is a great run by Jackie. She's been wanting to have a good run for a long time now. Big smile on her face.
In fact, she's gone, bar 100th, a full second quicker.
There she does. She takes a little tap, going down to the lower portion of the track. Exiting of Gunter Sachs right there. Small correction, but she'll be very happy with that overall.
Annie O'Shea of the USA lying in 16th place after the first heat. 2900s in hand over current leader Jacqueline Narracott of Australia. Can the American slider find the form that's seen her take top 7 finishes here in the last couple of years?
5:28, not a bad first 50 meters for Annie, but she keeps wavering on her sled. You can look at the runners. They're not quite staying parallel as she makes her way down from the first kink to the second kink. She's got to settle on her sled, keep it going straight.
6th position last year, 16th in the first heat. That's how different your performance can be on this track year to year.
It really can. The track does change from one year to another, and you have to work out all the different subtleties and the different characteristics of the track for every run.
4100s in front at the start, 1200s and a hit in Telephone.
Oh, she took the big hit out of Horseshoe into Telephone and then a skid going into Devil's Dyke. She might have an uphill battle here. We'll see what the next split is. As she falls into the red, 1100ths of a second behind.
1 mile an hour slower out of Horseshoe. Down at the bottom, top speed is 83.5 miles an hour. She's 82.3 miles an hour.
Oh, this is not the run that Annie wanted. She was looking for redemption, and she doesn't get it as she falls into second place, 4/10 of a second back. Rough day for Annie O'Shea.
And that run alone, nearly 7/10 of a second slower than Jacqueline Narracott, who is our current race leader. And 700s feels bad enough. 7/10. Well, it's not too often you want to see St Moritz in your rearview mirror. Annie can't wait.
She takes a very middle-of-the-road line through Horseshoe. She doesn't quite get the height that we've seen some of the other ladies get. Comes out, drills this left wall, gonna leave a bruise on her left shoulder. Very abrupt entry into Telephone.
Bitterly disappointed Annie O'Shea. Jacqueline Narracott leads, 5 down, 15 to come. Welcome back to race 5 in the Women's Skeleton World Cup in beautiful St Moritz, Switzerland. Lelda Precelina of Latvia, whose teammate Martin Stucours destroyed the field in the men's race, skids into the first corner, 15th from the first heat.
5:31, a decent start from Lelda. Kink 1, she used her toe quite liberally there. Kink 1 has been very difficult for all the racers this week. One of the more difficult kinks that we've seen in recent years, certainly in the past 3 years that I've been sliding here, as she exits wall corner and into Snake 1 and Snake 2.
Half a second up on leader Jacqueline Narracott from Australia. Gaps coming down.
Going from Nash into Dixon. Dixon, the critical setup curve into Horseshoe. Going in middle leg. Gets really close to the roof there, but exits cleanly. Wow, impressive sliding.
Now, 3100s behind. This could really slingshot her into contention. 3100s in front, rather. 1500s, but she needs to keep it clean at the bottom.
The gap is coming down. Weld is having some nice lines, but as we saw in the first heat, she didn't quite have the speed that she was looking for, and it could be a really tight race as there's only 500ths of a second separation.
Same speed as Jacqueline Narracott, the leader. Will she hold it to the line? Yes, by 800ths of a second.
Very tight racing there. Could have gone either way. Lelda held her form, nice and calm on the sled, tucked, aerodynamic positioning.
Well, she was 6200ths of a second in front of Jacqueline after the first heat. 800ths of that lead remained after 2 heats.
It goes to show what a good run Jackie had on her second. Here she is in horseshoe, getting really close to that roof. Dangerous line. You're almost playing a game of chicken there as she nearly clips the top of the curve with her bunks.
So there is our race leader, Lelda Pregelina of Latvia. Cowbells and Swiss flags for Marina Gilardoni in the women's skeleton race. Junior world champion on this track in women's bobsled as a brave woman behind Sabina Hafner, who has also, by the way, chosen this weekend to make her return after 5 seasons away. Gilardoni, an electrifying start at 5:22.
One of the fastest starts that we've seen all day, as she makes her way through the kinks and spots her line with a little bit of a left toe drag to correct it going into wall here.
Bronze medalist in last year's race in St Moritz, only 14th. That's what a disappointing first run she had.
It was a disappointing first run for Marina. She's going to try and have an excellent second run here, which is what she actually did last year and jumped a lot of spots. We'll see if she has the same luck as she sets herself up for horseshoe. Going in middle into horseshoe. Very nice line, comes out cleanly, maybe a little bit of a skid as she makes her way to the lower portion of the track.
Uses a lot of toes, you hear a lot of scratching noises. Of course, that helps adjust the steer, but it's friction, it slows you down as well.
Exactly, you have to make the corrections to get the right line, but at the same time, it does slow you down. Marina here having a really solid run, coming into the bottom of the track, 0.4 of a second. You hear the whistle on her Bobsleigh sled, 133.5 kilometers an hour. Crossing the finish line in first place by nearly 0.4 of a second.
109.48 slide. She did a 109.86 in the first heat. Now, on a traditional artificial track, such as we race everywhere else, the ice slows down as the day progresses. Here, it loses frostiness and actually tends to speed up all morning and into the afternoon.
It does. It's one of the quirks of the track here, is it does speed up over the course of the day as it gets warmer.
Marina definitely hoping for a medal here this weekend. Unlikely to happen from 14th in the first heat unless there's some cataclysmic disasters, and a lot of them. From North Vancouver, Canada's Jane Channel, one of the fastest sprinters in the business. And her joint Canadian and Japanese parentage represented on her helmet. The land of the rising maple leaf.
Jane is a fantastic starter. She works so hard in the off-season training in Calgary. Uses her toe and gets out in 5:20. Second fastest start time that we've seen over those opening 50 meters by these ladies here. Exiting kink 2, holding a nice line, very straight, going into wall, looking relaxed on her sled.
Now we saw a lot of girls, and Jane was one of them, sliding around in the first heat. If that were you, what changes would you have made to the sled for this second run?
I'd probably adjust the rock. So the rock is how much bow you put in the bottom of the sled on our runners, the pieces that make contact with the ice. You can adjust that to get more or less grip. Maybe that's what Jane did in between heats. As she goes through horseshoe, gets a clean entry into telephone, and makes her way through Devil's Dyke. Not a bad looking run so far for Jane here.
Building her lead over Switzerland's Marina Gilardoni. The fast 4 right-handers, tree, leap, bridge, and sacks that leads you onto the straight down to the last 2, Martineau and Portago.
0.2 of a second lead over Marina, 134 kilometers an hour, 83.2 miles per hour, crossing the finish line in first place with just over 1/4 of a second in the lead.
109.25, second fastest run of the heat. Oh, in fact, there's the fastest run of the heat. Jackie Narracott, second fastest run, 109.40. So Jane Channel with a 2,600 advantage over Marina Gilardoni of Switzerland, moves into the lead.
Here she goes, entering into horseshoe, using a little bit of a right toe to set the line. Gets a nice peak right in the middle of the corner there and exits cleanly.
Marina Gilardoni exits the leader box. Katie Uhlaender of the USA next up. 12th position after the first heat on her return to competition after a whole season away.
Katie has had a wild ride this season, ups and downs. Had a great team trials, then got ill, now trying to make her comeback and looking for a good result here today. On the sled, looking relaxed, going into wall, sets a nice straight line into wall here.
As ever, the stars and stripes on the helmet, the bald eagle looking down the track and setting the tone here. 1300s behind from the start.
And Katie's won here before. She won a World Cup gold here in 2007 and 2008, as well as some other World Cup medals. So she has success. She knows how to slide here. She's looking to redeem herself and have a good result today as she makes her way through horseshoe. Oh, she just clips that uptake going into telephone, kicks up some ice, trying to hold it together.
At the moment, going to drop 3 spots on the split time behind Jane Channel and Marina Gilardoni. If she keeps it clean at the bottom, she might hang on.
Maybe she can make it back if she's clean here, but it is drifting away from Katie just a little bit. 3/10 behind, doesn't quite have the speed that she needs to keep her position, and she will fall back a little bit.
Well, she drops 2 places then, a 109.53. She had better speed at the bottom than anybody preceding her, but not quite enough to keep herself in the lead. She'll end up in no worse than 13th position. As you say, physically not where she wants to be, and experience-wise as well. She missed the opening 2 races of the season and didn't come on to the World Cup until we were in Altenburg.
Here she is coming through horseshoe, gets a little bit low there on the exit, and then as you can see, she crosses too hard and gets that uptake into telephone.
Well, a former race winner here, a World Cup champion, a world champion. So she's got plenty of potential when she's fit and healthy. Germany's Anna Fernstedt, 11th after the first of our 2 heats here in St Moritz. Martin Haven and Nathan Crumpton from the USA calling the action. And this 20-year-old, the second youngest in the field, with not a great start, only 22nd in the starters, but she's a calm slider, and that works here.
She is a fantastic slider. She comes from the very technical Königssee track. She does have a big drift there out of kink 1. Corrects it out of kink 2, setting her line, coming into wall here. Holding good form, has to relax as much as possible as she builds all the speed for the rest of the track.
Only 20 years old, but a 5.55 start, 3/10 slower than our current leader, Jane Channel of the USA.
She's 2/3 of a second back now. She really has to start reeling it in if she wants to have a chance at the lead, and this is going to be a critical portion right here. Horseshoe. Comes out, up, she does clip it a little bit. I don't know if that's going to do her any favors. She has decent speed coming out though, gets above the 100km/h mark. Maybe she can make it work for her.
Well, she's only the second girl in the second heat to get over triple figures. We'll see 101 and change from the fastest sliders. Coming down within half a second of the leader. Down to 3:10. She can't take that in the final couple of corners. Surely not even Anna Fernstedt. At the line, she brings it down to only 1100s, but Jane Channel stays in the lead with 11 still to come. Flying into those crash mats, you've got to have your wits about you and your arms tucked up, otherwise you're going to hurt yourself there.
Certainly do. These walls are quite sharp and will leave a bad bruise. Here she is exiting horseshoe, holds it onto the corner just a tad too long and just brushes that entry going into telephone.
Jane Channel leads for Canada. Anna Fernstedt in second. Katie Uhlaender lies third, with the top 10 still to come here in St Moritz. Nathan Crumpton, we talk at every track about how it's changing, how it's evolving, and it's a surprise to the sliders every time you get on the ice. You have to try and figure out what's different and how you deal with it, right?
You do. It does take out a little bit of the home track advantage that you see on many other tracks. The Swiss do have a bit of an edge here. They did have their national championships over the Christmas break, so they do have some more runs than the rest of us, but it's not the same because the walls could be built a little bit differently each year, and then the pressures are going to send you into different directions, and the subtleties, which can make or break a race, are going to be different.
And the track doesn't open until December, unlike the other tracks in Germany, say, that are iced from October, so you can have a couple of months on it pre-season. Here, the Swiss get a couple of days in their national championships, and that's their sole advantage. So yes, it often doesn't favour the Swiss athletes that much. Beautiful sunny conditions here, have been all week long, but there's not much that distracts you from the view. Not much better than the view here, apart from maybe sliding the track. How different is it to anything else that you do?
It's hard to describe the feeling here. It may sound cliche, but it does feel like you're flying. You're flying with your head about 2 inches off of the ice. And here, especially in St Moritz, all you hear is the wind blowing by your helmet as you make your way through the forest from the city, from the town of St Moritz, over a mile downhill to the next town of Celerina.
And it's all about noise. And that educates you as well as what head positioning does for aerodynamics, doesn't it? Because you move your head, you hear it makes a different noise.
It does. And the other thing you can hear with the helmet is when you enter these corners at high speeds, hit a high G-force portion, and the helmet will actually drag along the ice. And we may be able to hear some of it in the second heat here today.
See the ice rink and the ice sheet there outside the original St Moritz Stadium, used as an opening venue in the 1928 Winter Games, and now restored to its original beauty. St Moritz in Switzerland, round 5 of the BMW IBSF Women's Skeleton World Cup. Here's our reigning Olympic champion after a season away from the ice. Eric Badrutt, the last American man to win on this track, holds the sled for his star slider. Lizzie in 10th place, and not the best placed Brit in the first heat.
Her teammate Laura Dees is just a little bit in front of her as Lizzie is going to get into this battle for the top British slider as she exits kink 1. Oh no, she taps that slider's right, and oh, she gets into a pattern where she hit it again, dipping into the red. Oh, you hate to see that happen to a slider.
Lizzie Arnold won in 2012, breaking Shelley Rudman's string at 3 successive wins on this track.
So she does have success here. She does know how to slide it. I don't think that kink 1 to kink 2 is going to do her any favors, though. As we can see, she falls half a second behind the pace set by Jane Channel of Canada. Here she is entering the critical horseshoe, takes a very late line going into horseshoe. Good height, uses her toe, sneaks by the entry into telephone.
Well, she spent all of last year away from the ice, just enjoying life and still enjoying the sliding, but maybe some of the nuances are yet to return.
Perhaps that is the case. We can see it. Oh, she breaks into a skid going down to the bottom portion of the track, and the time is just drifting away from her as she's 6/10 behind the pace.
Best result of the season, silver medal in Lake Placid, the second round of the World Cup, and she loses 6 spots.
Oh no, she knows it too. She was shaking her head as she crossed the finish line there, dropping down into 6th place. I'm afraid Lizzie is not going to be too pleased with that one.
Well, you can feel when it hasn't gone well as a slider. It's such a personal, physical thing, isn't it?
It is. There's a very close interaction between the slider, the sled, and then the track itself. And here we see Lizzie. Oh, this is where it just started to go all sideways on her. Exited the kink, tapped once, tapped twice, and the low-speed portion of the track there, you cannot make those mistakes.
Obviously, a lot of those taps in the bobsleds, they just can't get round that corner without problems. Lizzie Arnold drops a few spots. Jane Channel of Canada still leading. For the Netherlands, Joske LeConte, one of 6 Bromley sleds in the top 8 positions. And she, in top 10, she's tied with Lizzie Arnold from the first heat, the Olympic champion.
Here she makes her way through kink 1 out of kink 2 now. Oh, getting a little bit of a balancing correction using her right foot there. She spots her entry going into wall, the long left-hander, before going into snake 1 and snake 2, where it starts to descend more steeply and you can really build some speed.
Starting 5:39, couple of hundreds behind, now out to a quarter second behind the leader, Jane Channel.
And here she goes through Nash into Dixon and setting herself up for horseshoe. Gets quite close to that roof. Oh, skidding into telephone. That might hurt her time a little bit as she falls back into the red, a quarter of a second behind, but she does get into that triple figure mark.
We saw a big improvement from Aussie Jacqueline Maricott in the second heat over her first run. We're seeing the same from Jane Channel. The women that were faster than her in the first heat not able to match that pace. Gaps coming down to a 10th. The Bromley very fast at the bottom. Can she take the lead and guarantee herself a 9th place finished? Oh, Oh, 700s away, but it will be a top 10 result for Joske LeConte here in St Moritz.
And I believe that's a personal best for Joske, getting a top 10.
Well, she was 7th last year, which I think is her best ever World Cup result. So St Moritz treating her well. Might be the first time she's beaten Lizzie Arnold, though, in her career.
And she does love this track. She was saying earlier today this is her favorite place to slide of anywhere in the world.
And if you feel it, maybe the love comes back.
Here she breaks into just a little bit of a skid, makes a light correction, and avoids the hit on the wall.
Joske LeConte of the Netherlands leads. Kimberly Bos of the Netherlands is next up. Kimberly Bos of the Netherlands in her first World Cup season. 8th place here. Martin Rettel, the coach behind her, wearing his Ayrton Senna cap for race day.
Kim's got a solid start. We have a little bit of a battle here between the Dutch ladies. She takes a little tap, but she avoids the second one, stays off of that slider's right wall as she enters into kink 2 here.
Jane Chanel of Canada, 13th off the first heat. We're now up to the 8th fastest slider, but the gaps were very small in heat 1 in this portion of the field.
They were a lot of tight racing, just a few hundredths of a second between sliders as we see Kim drop into the red, falling behind at the top of the track.
Out of Sunny into Nash and Dixon, named after the 2 British sliders that won the 2-man gold in 1964 in Bobsleigh. And they're the only members of St Moritz Bob Club ever to win Olympic gold.
Breaking the 100km/h mark. Oh, takes a little skid and a tap going into Devil's Dyke. Might not help her. We'll see if the gap comes out. Oh, and she's into the lead. She's made it work for her. 100th of a second. She was fast in the first heat. Maybe she can replicate that here, build a little bit more speed. Using her Bromley sled, 136.4, that's excellent speed, 84.8 miles an hour, crossing the finish line in first place by 0.3 of a second.
Well, she was saying at the beginning of the week that she has a love-hate relationship with this track, and she said, please, can we have a bit of love? Well, I think she might be feeling it now. She had a big smile on her face after the first heat, and that was a big run. 109.10 in the first heat would have left her in second place.
Oh, she is pumped. She is happy with that.
Please, St Moritz, can we have a bit of love, she said. Now she's got it. She takes the lead from Jane Chanel of Canada. 7 sleds to go here in St Moritz. Jacqueline Learning, our World Cup points leader. Race 5 of the BMW IBSF World Cup for Women's Skeleton. We've had 4 different winners in the men's field. We've had a 2-time winner in the women's field. Jacqueline Learning with a silver, a 5th, a win, and a silver this season.
She is not the best starter in the field, but she is a driver's driver. She can get speed in all sorts of places. Here she goes. She takes a little tap, trying really hard. Oh no, she's taking those 2 taps, the same thing that we saw happen to Lizzie Arnold. Couple taps out of kink 1 on the slider's right side, trying to clean it up as she enters wall here.
That wall actually is magnetic, isn't it? If you touch it once, it just keeps bringing you back.
It does seem like that sometimes. It's hard to get out of that rut if you do take the first tap. But Jacqueline is a fantastic driver. She did have a few problems out of Horseshoe on the first run. We'll see if she has an improvement here, and maybe she can make up some of that time down this 1,700-meter course.
Netherlands first and third. Kimberly Bos is our leader. Gap comes down from 32 to 1,700 now. Oh, first into the 101 kilometers an hour now for Jacqueline Learning, our World Cup leader.
She did have a little bit of a rough exit there going into Devil's Dyke out of Horseshoe, but she's letting the sled fly, trying to build as much speed as possible. We'll see if she can get back into the green, taking another hit before Martineau.
That's widening. Kimberly Bos is going to move up. Learning can't find a quarter of a second in the final corner, loses even more. Kimberly Bos leads with 6 to go. Wow.
Tight racing here. Jacqueline, it's always a tough time when you come down, you lose your positioning. She's lucky she only dropped 1 spot there. Normally, she's a great speed merchant. She finds a lot of speed at the back of the track. Here she is, entering Horseshoe. Nice high line, getting close to the top. Doesn't quite bring it out cleanly, though, and you can see her. She hits the entry to Telephone, the next corner, sprays a bunch of ice shards up into the air. That's not the clean line that you want to take.
Kimberly Bos of the Netherlands leads, 6 to come. Looking for a top 5 finish, Great Britain's Laura Dees. 8th fastest starter, 6th at the bottom of the track on a smooth first heat.
Laura, one of the fastest starters in the field, 5:22. That's great speed coming out of curve 1, kink 1. And she has had success here before. She won a bronze medal a couple of years ago, and she's hoping to repeat that performance here today. Nice slide, going into wall, holds it well, holding her form. We'll see if she stays in the green here.
1700s in front, and she only had 700s over Kimberly Boss from the first heat.
Widening that lead, though. She's got 3/10 in the bank now as she makes her way from Nash into Dixon, setting herself up for horseshoe. Little toe correction, picking her line. You can hear her face dragging on the ice as she makes her way through horseshoe. Triple-digit speed, though.
100, not 101 that we saw, so 3400s. The gap might shrink a little. It's down to 3200s, barely any change.
More scraping of her helmet on the ice. She always struggles holding her head up in some of these corners. We'll see if she can hang on to the speed, though. 1700s in the lead left. This might be close at the finish, 133.1.
84.9, top speed at the bottom from Anna Fernstein. She slips a spot, Kimberly Boss leads.
Loses it in the final 2 corners by 600ths of a second.
Kimberly Boss in her first year in the World Cup. Second here in the Europa Cup last January, the junior tier of sliding. Didn't make it into the top 10 during training runs. But she leads with 5 to come. Laura Dees slips a spot into second position. Kimberly Boss in the Netherlands leads. 5 to come here in St Moritz. St Moritz, Switzerland. Martin Haven and Nathan Crumpton from the USA watching the final 5 sliders, round 5 of the Women's Skeleton World Cup. And Tina Hermann of Germany, last year's World Cup champion and world champion, is 5th off.
Whoa, takes that bump going into kink 1, a little bit of an abrupt entry. Going down into kink 2, I think she made the necessary corrections there, staying clean as she finds her way down into wall. Head low, trying to spot that entry line, and hopefully staying in these green numbers here.
Well, the gaps are so tiny in this part of the field. She was only 1100s in front of Kimberly Boss from the first heat.
It is some tight racing here. She enters Sunny, this long sweeping right-hander. She sets herself up for the Nash-Dixon combination.
Still in the green, but the lead is just 200ths of a second to horseshoe.
The critical horseshoe corner. Exits. Oh no, she takes a tap on the left side and almost comes off the sled. 99.4 kilometers an hour. That's not the speed that she's looking for.
Kimberly Boss was 101. That's 61.8 compared to 62.9 miles an hour. Hermann in a hole, leads speed at the bottom, and the Germans have struggled to produce it.
She almost tapped the wall, avoided disaster there. Drifts behind by 200ths of a second. Oh, Tina, she's probably going to fall behind at the line here.
Tina Hermann never goes behind at the bottom of her track. Never. That's where she always finds the speed. Jens Muller can't believe it. But those big skids in the fast corners just put the brakes on.
There's a 4-corner combination, tree, bridge, leap, and Gunter Sachs. 4 right-hand corners in a row. You have to nail them if you want to have that top speed at the bottom, and it just got away from Tina.
You don't have to speak English, you only have to speak body language.
Here she is at the start, coming out of the groove, the spur, and it just shoots the sled to the wall, and she takes that hit. And here's another hit. This is out of horseshoe, getting a really rough entry into telephone the following corner.
Disappointment for Tina Hermann, last year's World Cup champion. She lies 3rd. Kimberly Boss leads for the Netherlands with 4 to go. Not only a personal best for Kimberly Boss, but for the Netherlands as well in women's skeleton. Lisbeth Vace, 2 wins this season under her belt. She won last time and the season opener in Whistler.
She'll be looking for another podium finish today. 5:31 start, decent start here for Liz. She makes her way through the kink, gets pushed a little bit to that slider's right, sliders left. Going into wall here, long sweeping left-hand corner, and will hopefully build onto the lead that she has over Kimberly Boss of the Netherlands.
Silver medal 2 years ago, 11th last season in what was a horrifying year for her. Out of Sunny into Nash and Dixon. Let's hear how much steering she does here into horseshoe.
Not a bad line through horseshoe. You could maybe hear her helmet scraping, but she does have some great speed. 101.1 kilometers per hour coming out of horseshoe.
Really good speed, hardly anybody quicker. She's half a second clear of Kimberly Boss and holding that advantage.
It looks like she's pulling away. Here are the right-hand corner combinations. There's the fourth right, Winter Sachs. 134.1 for a lead of 4/10 of a second.
Well, gap's coming down, but she will lead at the line, and she does. 2200s won last week, but she's not going to win this week. The Bromley slider into the lead. 3 more to come, all on Bromley sleds.
Yes, we have the battle of the Bromley sleds here. The British-made sleds that the top 4 ladies are racing on today.
And what's Kimberly on?
She's on a Bromley as well, actually.
Yeah, there we go. Well, she slipped at the start, we're hearing. Let's take a look in the slow-mo replay.
Not as bad as it could have been. Yeah.
Look how close the chin is. I'm going to say, look how close it is. You can actually see it chattering on the ice there. There's Kimberly Boss. Elizabeth Arche. And she might challenge for the World Cup lead with 2 wins this season. 2 wins in the last 2 years on this track for Austria's Janine Flock. 100th out of silver after the first heat.
You can see that groove. All of the ladies choosing to take that right groove. It's really pushing them farther right out of the exit. Janine really had to wrestle with that to keep her sled straight. Takes a little bit of a knock, but now she looks like she's under control.
She's got a decent advantage over Kimberly Boss from the first heat.
But she's falling just a little bit behind Liz from Canada here. She's in the red. She's going to look for those numbers to go in the green. Only 600ths of a second behind as she makes her way into Nash and Dixon.
She's in second place between Varche, who was a 10th of a second behind her.
Takes a late line into horseshoe, gets really close to that roof, but nice and smooth on the exit to telephone. Oh, little knock on the sled on the right. Just before Devil's Dyke, that might hurt her. Well, see what happens.
And the problem is, everybody's got the same kit, so if she's making mistakes, she's not going to find more of an advantage at the bottom. The gap is going to grow. She is falling out of the medals. Elizabeth Varche is going to hang on. Oh, it's down to 900ths of a second. Could be very close. A rub on the wall might make the difference. Big hit, 200ths of a second in front. Wow.
Racing there. Final corner just pulls it out.
200ths is right. Wow, well, we promised you a heck of a finish.
And we haven't even got delivering.
Yeah, we haven't even got to the tight bit yet. 200ths of a second in front of Elizabeth Arche, guarantees herself a medal for the 3rd straight season.
Here she is on the exit corner, gets so high, slams into that wall. Oh, she might have a bruise on her left shoulder tomorrow morning.
2 sleds to go in St Moritz. We are going to have a first-time World Cup winner, potentially. Kendall Westenberg of the USA has never won a race. She lies in second place after the first of the 2 heats.
This is the highest that Kendall has seen herself in any race. She has a personal best finish of 5th place in Park City, Utah last year. That's her home track. Here she is in Switzerland for only the 3rd time in her career, and she's in the hunt for a medal.
Well, she had an astonishing run to put herself 100th ahead of Janine Flock, who has won the last 2 races. Last woman to win on this track from the USA, Noelle Pikus Pace, 3 seasons ago.
The legendary Noelle Pikus Pace taking a number of medals here and an Olympic medal in Sochi, recently retired. We'll see what Kendall can do. She comes through horseshoe, face dragging. Oh no, she takes a little bit of a tap before telephone. Hopefully it doesn't, oh, and escape going into Devil's Dyke as well. That's gotten a lot of ladies today. We'll see if it hurts Kendall at all. There was only a 100th of a second difference in the first heat.
Holding on in front of Janine Flock. They're both on Bromley sleds. She needs to be perfect out of Sachs. She is perfect out of Sachs. The gap grows. She needs to be excellent between Martineau and Portago. A little bit of a steer, but she takes the lead. Silver medal guaranteed. Janine Flock, the winner of the last 2 years, will be no worse than bronze. 1 to go. We will have a first-time winner again this season. Kendall Westenberg leads.
What a phenomenal run by Kendall. She let the sled get away from her at a couple spots, but she built the speed as she needed to and has a great result. Here she is in horseshoe. Beautiful line through horseshoe, holding form perfectly. takes the exit, just takes a little bit of a scrape, but holds her form and goes into the lead.
Katie Uhlander, who's won on this track, knows what it feels like, offers her congratulations. The final slider. What was going through Kendall Westenberg's mind? I don't know. What's going through Mimi Rahneva mind from Canada? I can't imagine. She was 7900ths ahead of second place. 7900ths from second took us down to the bottom of the top 20. She is a second clear out of the first kink.
5:15, that's a fantastic start. Second fastest start that we've seen today. Mimi's incredibly strong, works out really hard in the gym in the off season. And she was able to put together a good drive down the track as well in the first heat.
I wondered what being in second place, almost last to go, would do for Kendall. Apparently, didn't affect her one iota. And Mimi Rahneva now 1 1/3 seconds clear. I'm going to say again, are we sure this is St Martin's two course having a laugh with us? Because this is otherworldly.
This is fantastic driving by Mimi. 102.4 kilometers an hour out of Horseshoe. That's the fastest speed that we've seen. She is flying down the St Moritz track.
This is her 5th ever World Cup start. She's already had 2 bronze medals in Lake Placid and Winterberg, and she is going to win this by the better part of not 1, but 2 whole seconds. Mirella Rahneva, what a performance!
Track record as well, 1:08.04, nearly 2 seconds in the lead. What a finish by Mimi.
0.18 of a second is a decent margin. 1.8 seconds is insane.
In a sport that's measured to the 100th of a second, Mimi takes it by a storm.
And for a good reason, it's measured for hundreds, Mimi. Oh my goodness. Jane Channel goes to congratulate her. Jane finished 9th, Elizabeth Vachi 4th, and Mimi Rahneva.
That was amazing.
5 races, 2 bronze medals, and a gold medal already in her rookie season.
Unbelievable. What a fantastic year Mimi's having. She was nervous coming onto the World Cup at the beginning of the season. She talked to me about it and was saying that she wasn't quite sure how to handle the pressure, but she is just having a fantastic year.
First heat, 1:08.49. Second heat, 1:08.04. 4,500ths quicker than herself.
Unbelievable. A fantastic slide and push by Mimi. Wins it by a country mile.
Well, if you want some tape to watch to see how to get down St Moritz, she'll complain that there were still a few errors in there, and I'm sure she's right. But, you know, for everybody else, they'll take those errors every day. Mimi Rahneva, what a day of days for her. Kendall Westenberg in second position again. An astounding performance from her. Janine Flock, 2 goals in the last 2 seasons, takes bronze ahead of Elizabeth Vachi. Best ever result for the Netherlands. Kimberly Boss in 5th and Joske LeConte in 10th. Laura Dees, the best for Great Britain, in 6th position. Breathless stuff here, and really bad news indeed for the Russians going forward. They've got a sled, but no coach to advise them how to use it, and that is showing here in St Moritz. Nathan Crumpton, we should have gone to the box of superlatives, because I really can't express a way to say just how good those pair of performances were from Kendall especially, and then from Mimi. I mean, it's a different thing, a different place she's gone to today.
It really is. And that's the thing about skeleton too, is that you have to be consistent. It's not just one run. You have to put together 2 solid runs.
Well, the maple leaf flag is out. She's already had 2 bronze. The worst of her season, 18th in Altenburg. She started in Whistler with a 5th place. That gave us notice, even if you hadn't been looking at her previous results. 2 bronze medals in Lake Placid and Winterberg, 2 very different tracks. One a real driver's track, Lake Placid, a real glider's track in Winterberg. So she's got it all. And Kendall, I mean, it's going to take a few days to wipe the smile off her face as well.
It most certainly will. Kendall had a fantastic slide here today. She had some great training runs, and she proved that it wasn't a fluke, and she put it together on race day.
Well, whatever their favourite tracks might have been before coming here for Kendall Westenberg and Mimi Rahneva, this has got to go right towards the top of the list. Okay, Canadian and American, you've got your favourites back home, but St Moritz has a great location, and for them will have hugely happy memories as they leave. Some just can't wait. Annie O'Shea will be the other side of the Kendall Westenberg coin. She was utterly gutted with her performance, down in 17th position. She can't wait to get away from the track. Kendall will be happy to enjoy some afternoon sunshine and maybe come and watch the historic race later this evening, because a silver medal, greatest result of her career, and a really, really exceptional pair of slides. And for our race winner, Mimi Rahneva, sets you up for the rest of the season. Confidence will be brimming over, heading to Königssee in Bavaria. St Moritz, Switzerland, the home of ice sliding. Round 5 of the Women's Skeleton World Cup. Jacqueline Lerling still leads from Janine Flock and Elizabeth Vache. But look at Mimi Rahneva, today's winner, shoots up into 5th position overall from 7th spot. And Lizzie Arnold slips down from 4th to 6th with what was a disappointing day. 15th place finish for our reigning Olympic champion. Well, big result for Kendall Westenberg with the silver medal, but for Mimi Rahneva, an entirely different class, as if a World Cup athlete was racing in the Europa Cup, whereas actually it's the other way around.
Mimi could have been in the men's race this morning, and she might have even beaten me. She had a fantastic slide, great speed at the bottom, holding her form really well, and a great start to boot too. She has it all, and it showed today.
I don't have the men's results with me, otherwise I would have compared exactly where she would have finished in the men's race. It wouldn't have been down at the bottom. Well, there's your podium, lots of smiles. Janine Flock on the right, the Austrian, won on this track in the last 2 seasons, still on the podium, her 3rd straight podium. She's starting to get a bit of a Shelley Rudman run going here. 2nd place for Kendall Westenberg. And the gold for Mimi Rahneva. No Canadian woman has won on this track in the last decade. So Mimi turns that around. Seems fair to me. Well, there you go. What a race. Thank you to Nathan Crumpton for words of wisdom. Thanks for joining us. I'm Martin Haven. Join me and the IBSF TV crew for the rest of the action here in St Moritz, Switzerland, as the skeleton athletes now head towards Königssee in Bavaria, just a few miles down the road. We'll see you for more action from the beautiful Engadin Valley soon. Until then, auf Wiedersehen and goodbye.